You're listening to Rocklaz Radio, a podcast discussing inspiring personalities and interesting things. This is your host, Tanmay Shah. I'm an India-based NFT artist and an entrepreneur with diverse business experience. This podcast is self-sponsored. The best way to support this show is to buy my art, NFTs, and you can also become my patron. Kindly share this episode on your socials and with your friends. We are the dreamer of music and we are the maker of dreams. Steve Ryan is a United States based singer, songwriter, podcaster, entrepreneur, best selling author, actor, and much, much more. He's very humble and motivational human. His aim in life is to bring freedom to people's mindset so that they know they can achieve. He has been featured in leading magazines such as Forbes, New York Times, Midday. Steve has around 100,000 followers on Twitter and 16,000 subscribers on YouTube. Steve has been the founder of NFTs for Freedom movement. Steve's music has been described as inspirational, groundbreaking, thought-provoking, and highly enjoyable. His lyrics just outright magical, as you just heard, and he has written over 200 songs. So let's begin with this, Steve. Knock, knock.
Who's there?
Hawaii.
Hawaii.
Hawaii
No.
who?
Oh, Hawaii, you. Oh,
So I'm good. How are you?
okay. Hawaii, you. Oh,
Yeah.
I kind of felt that in the mind, but I couldn't get it out of the mouth.
All right.
Yeah.
Thank you so much for. I know you're very very busy and you have removed this time for me for the listeners of this podcast. We are really thrilled to have you here. So Steve, how have you got into music? You have been
Um,
doing say music since ever. So how did you get into it?
well, I mean, I originally started, I know a lot of people start when they're young. I mean, I originally started like writing whenever I could write, like, 6, 7, 8 years old. I was writing songs and poems, getting on the piano. That's where it all started, and then doing a lot of poetry. And then that's pretty much where it started. And then I would do like talent shows and all kind of stuff. And then I once I started going out and performing, that's when I started doing a lot of ghostwriting. So that's what introduced me to the music business.
Did you say ghostwriting?
Yes.
What is ghostwriting?
Ghostwriting is when, like, let's say that you hear a song on the radio, but it says, you know, Joe wrote it. I'm just giving an example. If it says that Joe wrote the song, Joe might have hired me to write the song, but it says Joe wrote it, but I really wrote it. And I was just like a work for hire. You know what I mean?
All
So,
right, got it.
yeah. And a lot of
Awesome.
times it's confidentiality agreements on that because, like, a lot of times publicly, some writers don't want people to know if they've hired other people to write for them.
So you have been a ghost writer as a ghost writer. Okay. So, Steve, you are a very motivational person. You are very happy all the time. You have inspired so many people. And, as I observe people who are always this motivational and happy and inspiring, come with some struggling past or they have some dark history or they have faced a lot of struggles. Is that true in your case? And how, if so, what was it? Could you explain and how did you outgrow that?
Well, yeah, I mean, with the motivation, yeah, I mean, you're right. It does come with ups and downs. So it's not like being happy all the time, but it's really more about how to stay balanced, how to not live in the depression. Um, like one of the things that I struggle with sometimes now is the death of my father because I watched him die in front of me. And so, sometimes there's moments where, I am sad and I am down, but then when I go and motivate other people, that kind of helps pull me out of that myself as well. And it just gives another perspective. So, yeah, I mean, and outside of that, I mean, I can't think of all the struggles, but yeah, it's definitely been times where things have been harder and I just find a way to get through it. And then once I get through something, I like to try to help other people get through what they're going through. Because if you don't have that support, it can be easy to stay in what you're doing, stay down.
Hmm. Yes, you mentioned about belongingness and you want everybody to belong. So, what has been your experiences with that?
Wait, I'm sorry, say that one more time.
You mentioned in one of your videos that you want to give everyone the sense of belongingness. You mentioned that sometime in your childhood you didn't feel like you belonged somewhere or people were not so nice to you. So could you shed some light on that? How was your experience and how are you dealing with it and how are you making things better for others now?
Yeah, yeah, and that's true. It just felt like sometimes the way that I think always went against what's considered popular or what's considered cool. And and so it was just very hard at the time because it just felt so isolating. I mean, I did find community and find support through people who felt similar, like who felt like outsiders, who felt like they didn't belong. And there was some moments of being known. Like I got known through like acting and music a lot, but when it comes to personal, it still wasn't the same. Like it's one thing entertaining people, but it's another thing for people to accept you as you are. Like because sometimes my thinking can seem a little bit weird, which later as I got older, I figured out it wasn't weird. It was just forward thinking. It was thinking ahead of the times. So a lot of things that I do, I'm always considered ahead of my time, you know. And then as
Yes.
far as helping others, to answer that question, helping others, I like to help others to see their visions and to know that like even if they feel alone or feel like they don't have support, that they can still move forward.
Yes, absolutely. I have a very remarkable experience for that, which has stayed in my memory. It's going to stay for a long time. In one of the spaces, in one of the NFTs for freedom spaces, there was a non-binary person from Japan. They were so desperate for help. Nobody was giving them what they wanted in the community. No one was recognizing them. They were struggling to express themselves through the art and just reaching out for help and asking in desperation about what is to be done. They seemed like they were on a very delicate stage point in a life, and went ahead, you used Google Translate and you translated all the thoughts to them in Japanese in their native language. And it was such a touching interaction. And the way that concluded, the way that person was thanking you for helping and almost sobbing in tears, it was so touching. It was really amazing, Steve. That talks a lot about how you are as a person and how you have done, not just now, but you have been doing for so much time and for so many people. So thank you for that.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Yeah, see, and that's the thing. Like with something like that, it feels normal, but what makes me sad is why is that not being done more, for more people? You know what I mean? The fact that it stood out as such a odd, different thing, that makes me kind of sad a bit because I feel like that should be the normal for people to go to rooms and people make an effort to bridge the gap, even if it's a different language.
Absolutely, voice for the voiceless. And you have been such a kind host that you have been considerate of listening to them, not like other spaces where that's not considered and you have to move away quickly. So that's really awesome. Steve, you were mentioning how was your journey from being a ghostwriter to what you are now through all the music and through all the life that you have seen. Have you been born and brought up in United States itself, or where have you been from?
Yes, I was born in the U.S. and I'm in the U.S. now, but I have lived in Canada before, and I've been to Europe, but um, born in the U.S. and mostly in the U.S. The journey from ghostwriting to public writer is actually been pretty difficult. It's not easy because it's very easy to get stuck in that ghostwriting world because you're seen as work for hire, and then the public don't really know you. Only people that know you are people who hire you or people like in the industry. And so it can be incredibly difficult. So, and the hardest part is like being a part of projects that were very, very, very successful and not being able to publicly say, I contributed to that, because that's like a behind the scenes type of thing. And so now I made a decision that I don't want to ghostwrite anymore. Everything I do, I want it to be, I want my name on it. And it's because that's part of building legacy, you know, but it's very difficult switching from one to the other. So if anyone is listening that is in that position, the best thing I can tell you is collaborate with others, you know, go to workshops, find a way to keep working on your craft and just not giving up.
Yes, thank you for that. Steve, you have elaborated on this topic in the book Successful Mindset. So could you elaborate on some tips from that or insights that a reader can gain through there?
Yes, absolutely. Well, Success Mindsets, that's a book that I co-wrote with Alinka Rukowska and some other authors. So we all collaborated, and that book became a best-selling book. And it's also the physical book is being distributed through Simon and Schuster. So it's going to be in bookstores shortly, as far as the physical book. And, that book was a combination of each of us took a chapter and we wrote about what is our perception of how someone can be successful and what kind of tips. So in the chapter that I wrote, one of the biggest things that I wrote about is something that I call like incremental, success being a marathon and not a sprint. Meaning like if you have a goal that you want to work on it daily. Even if it's 10 minutes, even if it's 15 minutes. Even if you take a break a day or two and work on it 5 days a week, that eventually you will get that goal. Because what holds a lot of people back is that they look at goals like they're mountains and they try to accomplish so much in so little time instead of taking baby steps and saying, okay, let me chip away at it. So that's one of the keys to being successful. And the other key is your network, like building up a good network of people around you where you can support each other. And it's hard for people to do that if they take a selfish approach. But if they find a way to make every situation a win-win situation, then it's easier to build that network. And so those two things, I know there's more to it, but those two things alone will really get people a far distance.
Achieving goals in incremental terms and having networking with people selflessly. Yes, thank you for that. Steve, you have done Med Freedom petition, which have around 100,000 signatures. So could you give a backstory of that and what was the purpose of that and how was the outcome?
Yeah, as far as med freedom, that is a long-term petition. It shot up to the 100,000, and now it's kind of stalled a little bit. So, but it's not forgotten. It's not forgotten. And basically, here in the United States, when someone gets sick and have to go to the hospital, and let's say that insurance doesn't cover all of that bill, right now those bills are being put on people's credit reports. Their wages are being garnished. It's like people are being punished for something that's not their fault. So that petition, the purpose of that petition is to get Congress and the White House, which is our government here, to draft a bill that won't let medical bills be in credit reports, and stop garnishments of people's wages. And in that, it's not saying that people shouldn't pay their bills, but people shouldn't be penalized. Because once it goes on their credit, it can affect them getting a home, it can affect them getting a car, it can affect them putting their kids in college. It really has long-term effects. And so, really, I mean, a lot of people do support it, but at the same time, it's not urgent to people unless they're directly going through it. Those are the people that's willing to sign it and support it. Um, you know, so right now I feel like what I'm going to do is look at it as a long-term thing. I am focused on some other areas like NFTs for freedom, but once I get past this project, and maybe have some more resources, I definitely want to shed some more light on the medical freedom petition, and also look at, can this be a petition for other countries too? You know, so that's the background, to it.
Yes, yes, yes. This is a very interesting point. Many people, many countries even don't have basic health cares, and America, I can understand the business there. I mean, people are even allowed to advertise medicines on TV, so that talks about how much business there is in the medical healthcare field, and I can understand how the bills might be skyrocketing and how this petition could help people not be penalized and not, at least not be prevented from getting basic needs like house and things like that. Steve, what was your motivation for NFTs for freedom?
Well, the motivation for NFTs for freedom was the fact that a lot of the spaces and a lot of NFT information is centered around English, and I don't feel that it's fair or right that people who don't speak English or don't speak it well, that they're limited to information. I feel like the information should be available to everyone. So one of the inspirations for NFTs for freedom is to be a movement that will have different projects that will connect different people, different languages, different cultures all around the world, and set up resources to where now we can bring information that's in English, bring it to the other languages. And we're doing that now. Like, it's in the Discord, it's on spaces, like what you experienced in the space when you heard the translation. We're doing it now. The only thing that projects are going to do is allow us to scale it up and actually, like, maybe hire some people and make it a full-time thing. Right now, everyone is volunteering, you know? So and the other thing that inspired NFTs for freedom is I'm so sick of seeing uh, FOMO going around, fear of missing out. I'm so sick of seeing projects that make people feel excluded and make people feel like if they can't afford a few ETH just to buy Ape or whatever project, that now they're excluded. So NFTs for Freedom was a way of saying, you know what? We're going to come together as a community, and we're going to come together and do a community project. In this project, there's so many artists and photographers. We're all contributing to the artwork of NFTs for Freedom. And it's a documentary project. So it's so many people from so many places that have contributed their story. You know, so and so to me, if I had to sum up NFTs for freedom, freedom is the opportunity to build legacy. How can you build a legacy if you don't have access because of language or disability or whatever other differences? So we just want to help eliminate gatekeeping. I mean, that's what Web3 is supposed to be about. So to me, how can we be here? I mean, it's some great people here, don't get me wrong. It's some great communities. I'm not going to sit here and say that there's no good people because there are. But there's also a group of people who are or elitists and they have egos and and it's like, how can we say we're in Web3 and we want equality when we're not doing what it takes to reach across the aisle and help people? That's not equal. That's pretty much bringing what's in Web 2 over to Web 3, since they like to say it's a difference. So,
Yes, that's indeed an amazing initiative. I will drop links for people to drop to join the Discord and participate in this movement. I have given a lot of thought on this. Many places in India have amazing artworks like Tanjore, or there is a village in Bihar that does Madhubani paintings. There are many people who don't even have proper internet to their place. So it would really be awesome that they come up on this platform, make use of it, and that their art can be sold or featured all around the world. As you mentioned, ghost writing, that these people are ghost artists. They're not getting recognition for what they're doing. Their work is being sold for 10x or 20x for what that they have been purchased for. So I see a lot of potential of this in place in India and many places around the world. So thank you for that, and let's see what how we can take this even further. So Steve, you have been doing so many inspirational things. Who have been your inspirations?
I would say it's not one person, but my dad, my grandma, my mother, and just really so many people. It's even some people I don't know. Like every day I'm inspired. Like every day, when someone leaves a comment about how the meditation space helped or how this or that helped them, that's inspirational, you know, or like what you experienced in the room when the non-binary person came up, and someone actually took the time to hear them. That's inspirational because what people didn't know is that that person was very depressed, felt very alone, felt very isolated, not just from people in their own community, in their Japanese community, but every English community they went to, no one was taking the time. So this was the first community that said, "Hey, you know what? We'll listen to you. Come up and take your time." And that is inspirational. That's where I get the inspiration from. Each moment's like that.
Inspiring from people around here, and inspiration in small things on the way as you're doing it. That's something to understand, and we can do that as well. Steve, if you wanted to go for lunch with a famous person, living or dead, whom would it be? Or you can name a couple if there are more than one.
Um, let's see. It would be nice to have gone to lunch with Beethoven. or Leonardo da Vinci. Those two, because I like how they were forward thinking, and outside of their time. So I think that would be like an awesome thing to do if that was possible while living.
Yes, yes, absolutely. And I'm sure they, uh, there's a lot to gain from them. Even now they have passed away. As you mentioned, incremental growth, and I've heard of Beethoven writing, composing the most number of works in his whole lifetime as compared to anyone else. So if you have time and instruments around you, could you play some music for us, or tell us, say, a poetry that you have written?
Um, sure.
All right, all right. Until you get ready, I'll just tell to the listeners in the audience. In 5 minutes or after this question, we'll open the stage for questions from you. So raise your hand and come up if you want to. All right, over to you, Steve.
All right. I rarely read poetry in spaces, so I'll do poetry. Let's see. All right, let's do. I'm just getting this up. All right, I'm gonna do this poem called "The Struggle." All right. The struggle seemed never ending. Does it have to be this hard to survive? Why is it so difficult to succeed? Every time I turn around, another problem finds its way to me. I keep coming across discouraging predicaments. Was this the harvest of something that I did in my past? I work so hard, but nothing gives in. How much longer is this going to last? All of the pressure on me is very taxing. Although my outside appearance indicate the opposite, my inside is one that is on the verge of collapsing. I want to have hope, but does hope even exist? At what point will this hardship end? I have to find a way to get through it. What will it take for my overcoming to begin? I need an answer. I feel so clueless. I think of the future and I say to myself, how will my life be in a few years? Will my struggle be the same? I don't want it to exist. My decision have been made. I'm choosing to overcome it. I search and I search within myself for my will. I need it to survive all battles that are coming my way. When can I live my life? I need some worry-free days. The story of my struggle drives me insane. I can't take it anymore. Things have to change. I'm going to change my mindset. I will stand up and fight. It's pointless for me to stay upset when I have a vision of my future in plain sight. No more, no more, no more. This is what I will say to any negative influences that attack me. Nothing will take my resolve away. I will not continue to struggle. I will break these chains one circumstance at a time. When things appear to be near their end, that's when I'll know that my breakthrough is about to begin. I will now enjoy my struggle free mind.
Wow, Steve, thank you so much. Would any one more, Steve? One more,
All
if
right.
possible.
Sure. All right. This one I'll play for you. Um, let's see. Can you hear this?
Yes, perfectly.
I wake up and I don't know if I'm awake or asleep. It's like I'm falling in my mind to another life. And the memories come back to me like something from a different time. I wake up and I don't know if I'm awake or sleeping. If people knew the things I see, they think I'm crazy, crazy. If people knew the dreams I dream, they'd be running and screaming. I got visions. I don't get to know where they come from. I just see you like a morning sun. I can't help it, it's just in my blood. I got visions, and I guess I'm not the only one. But somehow I feel I'm all alone. Seeing futures that are yet to come. I wake up and I don't know if I'm awake or sleeping. All right, wasn't quite prepared, but hey, just winged it.
For you. Thank you. Steve, um, what is on your bucket list next?
Um, I don't really have a bucket list. I just kind of just go and do things.
So that's awesome. You have done many things. You have a podcast called Fired Up Fridays. You have got a brand for merchandises. You write books. You do so many things. How do you find your motivation to do so many things at a time?
Well, I take it one step at a time. I don't do all those things every day, but it's the thing that I was talking about from the Success Mindsets book, which is, if you have a goal, you have a dream, even if it's just 15 minutes a day, work on it. And, before you know it, some days you might have an hour. Because really we have more time than we think we do. If we think about how much time we just kind of, spend on things, we can get caught up on certain things. Some of that can be time that we can put toward working toward things we're passionate about. You know, I mean, that doesn't mean that people can't take time to enjoy themselves. I mean, that's great and incredible. But when it comes to goals, it's so easy to make an excuse. So instead of excuses, I just say, okay, for any excuse that comes in my mind, I challenge myself and I challenge it to everyone. If an excuse comes in your mind, as soon as you can, go ahead and do whatever you're making an excuse of. So if an excuse is, oh, I don't feel like writing today, I'm not inspired. You know what? Write anything. I don't care what it is. I don't care if you write the sun is yellow and the sky is blue. Like, just do it. Just take that step. I know a lot of people say, if you fail to plan, you plan to fail. I don't think that statement is strong enough. One of the things that I've come up with that I put in a quote book that's not released is like, if you fail to act, you're acting to fail. And that's a stronger statement because we can plan all day, we can get all this great advice from people, but until we take those steps and at least one step at a time, even if it's a small baby step, you won't know. Yes, we can get wisdom from learning from other people and their successes and failures, but sometimes what's meant for you is meant for you. And you may not know what's going to work for you until you try it, because something that worked for someone else may not work for you, or you may do something that didn't work for someone else. But how do you know if you don't take a step at trying?
Wow. Steve, when you take a step to write a song, what is your creative process to come down to the lyrics? Or that same could be applied to a lot of us artists here. So, what is your creative process?
Um, Personally, it can come one of three ways. Either sometimes I hear the whole thing in my head while I'm sleeping, and then I'll get up and then I break it apart. That includes the meditation music as well. Other times it might be something that inspired me, whether it was happy or sadness, and I just start working on it. I'll just start. Sometimes it comes out great right away. Sometimes I have to revisit it a few times. So I just get started on it. When it comes to songs with words, sometimes I get words first, and sometimes I get the song structure first, and sometimes both come. Like the song that I just played you, I heard that whole song in my sleep. So, and so so what that song was about was having visions, having, seeing things, feeling things intuitively, tapping into that side of ourselves that people don't like to talk about. um, you know, and sometimes saying the words like, if people knew the things I see, they think I'm crazy. If people knew the dreams I dream, they'll be running and screaming. It doesn't mean it's a bad thing, because you can run and scream out of excitement just as much as you can run and scream from something being bad. So, um, yeah, that's what I would say the process is.
Wow, thank you for sharing that. Friends, if you have any questions, you can raise your hand. I will pull you up. Steve, what are your thoughts on fashion and music? You have been complimented by Forbes and many other leading magazines on that. So, what are your thoughts?
Um, Well, it's kind of weird that they say fashion, because like I'm so unfashioned in my mind. Like, to me, I'm like some gym shorts and tank top and I'm good, you know? So, but fashion, I feel like fashion in itself is art, and sometimes with fashion it can be very challenging, because it's very tempting to want to go with what seems popular or what seems in. And if you do something that's fashion outside of that, then you're deemed weird. You're deemed odd, crazy, you know. But fashion is just a reflection of, like, the culture and the time that we're in. But it doesn't have to be limited to what's popular.
Yes, being comfortable in your own skin, and yes, we can understand the idea.
Exactly.
Steve, Steve, we have come to the time limit you have set of 40 minutes. Uh, One last question, if I ask, how do you feel? Are you happy? Are you healthy?
Yeah, I feel happy. I won't say I feel like that every single day, but I will say, a better description for how I feel is determined. I'm determined to not only leave a legacy, but I'm determined to help as many people as possible leave their own legacies. So that would be a better description for how I feel. Like, and I'm gonna work on that every day, whether I feel happy, whether I feel sad. I mean, today I'm happy, but yesterday was a tough day. Because my mom was going through a hard time. She missed my dad. I missed my dad, and she was having a very emotional day, and it was very hard for me to really process it, because that would have kind of paralyzed my whole day. But she was making statements saying that, like, she felt like when he died that her life is over. She feels like she don't want to do anything. She just, she don't even know if she wants to be here. And it's it's hard to process that, because I want to help her, but at the same time, there's absolutely nothing that I can say to make her feel better, because the only thing that will make her feel better is for him to be back alive, and that's not possible, um, that I know of right now. And so it was very paralyzing. Yesterday, it was a very paralyzing day. You know, so it's almost like a guilty feeling, in a sense of like being there for other people and feel like I can't even help my own mother, because because anything I say it's not helping. It's not is She misses him. That was her life partner. That was her soulmate. That was her everything. And I just feel so helpless. Like I can't do or say anything other than just tell her I love her, and be there as much as I can for her.
Wow. Steve, you have written a song called Proud of Me as a tribute to your father. What was it about? What what were some of the lines in it?
Well, that song, um, it really can be for anyone, and wondering if people you love, are they proud of you? Your friends, your family. It's almost like asking in a sense of like, do I matter? Have I done something that you would be proud of, that you can smile upon? Because I feel like I had a difficult relationship with my father where I hated him for a long time because he was never around, but he wasn't around because he was working to make sure we weren't homeless. And I didn't know that as a kid. All I knew is he wasn't around. All I knew is like if I was doing a talent show and I saw my mother, but I didn't see my father, I'm like, does he even love me? And so when I became an adult, um, that's when finally I start to kind of like realize that maybe I shouldn't view things that way. And I would say about like a few years before he died, I started to make an effort to try to build a relationship, and I'm glad I did. But now it kind of bridges back to that other question you had. I know we're on Proud of Me, but when you ask about NFTs for freedom and what inspires it, I want people to be able to have time for their family, have time for their kids. And they can't do that if they're struggling and having to work two jobs and never see their family. So, it's my vision. If I had to put something on a bucket list, it would be a vision to have an organization, which is like NFTs for freedom, that not only helps people in an NFT community, but people in general, to where, if you have someone who, let's say they want to start a business or they want to be able to work one job, maybe we can help them with resources to do that. Even if that means helping to cover bills for a little bit. I mean, it would be nice to be in a position to do that for a lot of people, and truly do that. And, empowering people to help themselves as well. So, but Proud of Me, going back to that, I feel like I learned more about my dad after he died than when he was alive because that's how I found out just how bad in financial shape he was when I was growing up because I went through his stuff. And I didn't know that. It made me feel bad that I lost so much time hating him and didn't know that like he was doing all this sacrificing just so that I didn't have to experience homelessness kid and I never experienced food shortage as a kid. And it's just sad because like he lost his own father at 10 and to have a kid that hated him for a long time, I know that must have been hard for him because he didn't how can you tell a child I'm doing this for you? And I made myself a promise that if I ever have kids, I'm just going to be honest with them even if I think they don't understand and just let them know like, hey, this is why I'm doing this and I want you to, but he didn't know that. He didn't have that. He had a stepfather that abused him and I didn't know that until I went through his stuff. So I felt like I know him better now than I did when he was alive. And it's bittersweet. It's sad because like I would have done things differently. I would have made an effort to be, to force closeness. You know what I mean? Because I'm like, that's my dad. He's not ultimately not going to turn me away, but I would have just forced it instead of taking the approach of like, he should show me he loves me. I would have done differently. I mean, I know I was a kid, but still, I would have done differently. So that's what that song was about. And also how like I found out he praised me a lot behind my back, but to my face he was very critical. But that was his way of showing love, his way of trying to make me grow. You know, like the first time I had a song on the radio was like, I remember it like yesterday. It was 2010, and and he was proud of that, and I saw that he had had some stuff made about that, but I never knew about that until I went through his stuff. I thought he just didn't care about my music or me as a person. So I know that's a lot, but that's, proud of me is pretty much about like, you know, reach out to someone you love, let them know that you're proud of them, and get to know people. Even if you have a parent or a sibling or family or friends, you may not know them. You may just see them as this is my parent or this is my child, but get to know them as a person. I think if we do that and understand that people are people regardless of their age, that will eliminate a lot of this. Had I got to know him as a person, it just, we would have had a different relationship. But I can't change that. You know, the only thing I can do is just try to help as many other people as possible and, live through their good relationships, and just, it's still sad at times, but, what can we do? We can't change time.
With all the things you're doing for people now, I'm sure he's happy looking at you from wherever he is. And the points you mentioned that we need to express ourselves and get to know people, even our parents or our children, that really hit home. So, what more things would you like to do to dedicate him in your life?
You said what more things, like more goals?
Yeah, what more things would you like to work on to give a tribute to him or a homage to him, or mm, doing things that you know would have made him happy?
Well, I think once like, NFTs for Freedom go forward and then some other projects, I think I want to do like an NFT project dedicated to him to where like his memories live on the blockchain. So I want to like maybe go through his stuff and put it on the blockchain and then find ways to maybe make it have a profile of its own. And that way people can get to know him as if he was living. And I would love to do that for my mom too. I don't want to leave her out. And just make a homage to both of them in that way, like really build them like they're a brand in them, in a sense where people actually get to know them. I think that would be a really nice thing to do.
Yes, that's an amazing thing to do with blockchain technology. Things have We have the power to make things eternal. I have dedicated my one of my artworks to a school professor of mine, so that's a very nice idea. We're really looking forward to it. Steve, what would you like to share with others as a concluding remark, or what would you like to say?
I would say, as a final word here, you know, be honest with yourself and listen to yourself. I can say that a million times, but it's incredibly hard for people to do that because there's so many voices out there that wants to pull you one direction or another. But knowing that you can trust your own voice, if you can trust your own voice and learn to trust your own voice, that's going to get you so much further. Even if someone is trying to help and they're giving you helpful advice, that doesn't mean that that advice is necessarily all for you. Maybe parts of it may be. But just knowing that whatever resonates with you, you can do it. And knowing that no matter how many good or bad days that you have, as long as you can find a way to stand up and keep moving forward, then you're going to be okay. That would be my final word to everyone on your podcast.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Steve, for taking time and sharing these amazing thoughts and words with you. We have discussed very serious and sensitive topics. All other people might have heard you always happy and positive, but with this one, I believe they'll get a different aspect, a deeper level of connection with you. So, guys, do share this with your friends. This will be published as a podcast. I'll put the Spotify link. I'll share the link with you in coming days. Steve's website, steveran.com, has many, many tools books, pages. It's a very resourceful. So I'm dropping the links to that even in the notes. Do check it out. He has got a monthly subscription, Abundant Lion, where he sends many motivational thoughts and quotes to inspire. So do check that out. And here on Twitter, he conducts meditation spaces and a very frequent space for NFTs for freedom and so on. So do come by and share with him whatever you want. He is open to all languages. There are no barriers. He's here. We are all here as a community to grow together and to get freedom to everyone's mind, as Steve says. Thank you so much once again, Steve.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me. Really appreciate you.
Thanks for tuning in. Connect with me on Twitter and Instagram to get updates on the new shows and to participate on live recordings. All links are mentioned in the show notes. We will be back next week with another fantastic episode.